Kia ora and welcome to Love Literacy Inspired, a podcast where we explore the real stories behind Aotearoa's literacy journeys. I'm Heather Down, founder of Love Literacy and passionate advocate for structured, evidence-based teaching. In each episode, I sit down with inspiring New Zealanders, teachers, parents, advocates, and learners to hear how literacy has shaped their lives, their work, and their hearts. Whether you're in the classroom, at the kitchen table, or just keen to learn, I'm so glad that you're here, and let's dive in. And today I'm very excited to have Janine Gartner here, founder and owner of Tax Agent 99. And the focus today is on her journey with dyslexia and how she found her path in accounting, and also how she built and now leads her own very successful business. So, welcome, Janine. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome, Heather. Thank you very much for having me on to be able to share my story. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I am actually really excited. Yeah, to like my experience with dyslexia obviously is through my son, but you have the lived experience. So yeah, and we've spoken a little bit offline already, and I am really, really interested to dive in. So yeah, would you like to start by just telling us a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Janine, and I'm originally from Ōtorohanga, a small town. And so I grew up over in Ōtorohanga, and then in my late 20s, I left Ōtorohanga and did my OE. So I got to travel overseas. I worked in various jobs while I was over in the UK. And then when I returned back to New Zealand, I actually sort of returned back because it was around the September 11th when that all happened. So I came back after the September 11th event, and there was a lot of scarcity happening over there. And I came here to the Bay of Plenty, where I've always wanted to live in the sunny Bay of Plenty. And not long after returning, I met my husband. We're coming out married in February of 20 years, and we have, I know, and we have a 12-year-old son, and we live in a little lifestyle property out in Pangara, which is past Te Puke. So yeah, and I started Tax Agent 99 11 years ago. In It was 11 years ago this month. So yeah, so we just celebrated the 11th birthday of Tax Agent 99. So yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's awesome. So you've obviously had done quite a bit within your life, and yeah, did the old OE over to the UK. Yeah, that seemed like it was a bit of a rite of passage for us back then.
It was, it was. I think it was great because that was the opportunity to step very much out of my comfort zone, especially with somebody living with dyslexia,
Mm.
going to a foreign country and having to navigate your way around getting jobs. And what's that going to look like when you don't really have the protection of, say, your mum and dad from living in a small town of Ōtorohanga where everybody knew me and my family. So my first job was within an organization that my family knew very well. And yeah, so lots of what I say, putting on your big girl undies.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And really sort of navigating that real world. And I think it's been a really big part of my growth to who I am today. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love those kind of stories. So just taking us back a little bit. Let's discuss a little bit about your early life, and I'd like you to think back to child or teenage years when learning was a little bit, as you say, a little bit difficult because we know that you're diagnosed dyslexic. When did you first realize that something was a little bit different about how you processed learning to read, write, and spell?
Sure. So it was my mum who picked it up.
Mm.
I have an older sister who is a fantastic speller. And my mum sort of thought, "Oh, I just don't quite know what's wrong with Janine or was wrong. I don't know if wrong's the right word, but Janine's she's not learning the way that my older sister was learning. I was unable to spell my name. I was really struggling with, well, my mum could see I was very struggling with bringing homework home and, having to sort of sit down and read the storybooks with me was very different to the way that my older sister could just sit down and just read a book and do her spelling. And so it was my mum that discovered that, and she picked it up quite early in my early age, really. I think I was about sort of 6 or 7.
Mm.
Which is good because that you can get onto it. I was lucky in my early stages that I had amazing school teachers in the early childhood sort of in the early days. And yeah, one of the school teachers, she would take me into a little quiet room and she would work with me. She was actually one of my dear friend's grandmothers.
Oh, that's lovely.
And she was a very dear, her name was Mrs. Short, and she was a very dear person to me, and she really helped me. And I did have a lot of school teachers in that early stage that were very supportive. But once I moved out of that sort of section of the school and moved up to the bigger classes, that was where I was really starting to struggle, and they would make me sort of stand up in front of the class and, do that reading out aloud. And I remember one of the school teachers had a saying on the blackboard, try, don't cry. And, she would constantly say, well, just try, Janine, stop sitting there crying. And the more you sort of kind of got told those things, the more you just shut down, and
Yeah.
you sort of shut down more and more, and you start asking those questions of yourself. Well, why am I different?
Mm.
Why am I different to my friend who can read out aloud? And um so there was a lot of struggle around that, but my mum, she found spelled, and she took me out of school on a Thursday. Every Thursday morning, I would go out to a lady called Mrs. Ferguson, and I would go to spelled, and I'd spend, a good part of the morning out there. And my nana would take me out, and my mum would take me out, and everyone got on board to take Janine out to Spout. But you know what? The school system actually fought my mum, and my mum was actually made to feel as though that I was being truant. They didn't believe that going to outside of school learning was actually going to be any good for me. And but my mum, she fought. She fought and she fought for me. And I say to her, quite often, I'm so thankful, Mum, for all the fighting you did for me. And I
Yeah.
remember, I remember spending, many hours with Mrs. Ferguson, and she would actually draw on my back. And so I learnt a lot of, spelling or sounds and things by being drawn on my back.
Mm.
And she had a big pool table and
Yep.
the felt, and I would go up on the felt of the pool table, and so I would really get that feeling, and the touch and the writing. And yeah, so that was where I did a lot of most of my learning was at Mrs. Ferguson's.
Yeah, and probably from that, it's like that those very early sort of ideas and concepts around that multisensory learning. So, like I'm imagining back then, she probably didn't have access to the same research that we do today. We've had all of these MRIs and these brain scans, and we know so much about the connections in the brain, but really what she was doing was instinctively taking you through that multisensory learning where she was trying to attach like the sounds, the symbols and all of those things for you. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Isn't it amazing the power of the trust your gut
Mm,
as a parent?
mhm.
And we all know that as parents of dyslexic children that there's no one that will fight harder for than our son. And we run that risk of being called that parent.
Yes,
Um, but yeah, your mother fought for you, which was yeah, obviously supported your journey.
totally,
Mm,
absolutely. Because if
mm,
mum didn't support or notice or put up that fight, I don't know where I would be really,
mm, mm.
and even you know, you get homework and all sorts of things. My mum would spend hours with me, hours, and hey, we might not. Sometimes she even did my homework for me.
Oh, look, there's nothing wrong with, and we spoke a little bit about this offline, that so dyslexia doesn't affect our intelligence. We know that. That's one of the common myths that we bust now. So
Yes.
as long as you were able to let her know what you wanted to say,
Yeah, that's what I would do is I
right?
would
Yeah,
tell her and she would write
yeah.
it, but then she would make me get up early the next morning. So she might have spent the night while I was gone to sleep. She would write sort of
Yep.
kind of what we had brainstormed and discussed. And we used to have a huge big set of encyclopedias.
Mm.
We would get the encyclopedias go, we didn't have ChatGPT or Google back then. And we'd go on the kitchen table and yeah, and then she would write it, but then next morning I would have to rewrite it. So I obviously didn't go to school looking like my mum had done my homework
Out of an encyclopedia, yes,
out
yes.
of the encyclopedias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at what point did you find that numbers made sense?
Yep. So as I went through primary school, look, I there was times I had really good school teachers, and then there was one particular year that the school teacher, he didn't know how to deal with me. He didn't want to deal with me. In fact, he didn't deal with me. So I sat there for a whole year doing nothing, basically. And my mum said, "Well, this is not right." So she moved me from I mean, Ōtorohanga is quite small, but she moved me from town out into a little country school called Hangatiki, and the school teacher out there said to my mum, "Okay, well, we'll work with Janine, but does she have any interests? Like, what does interest her about school?" And my mum said, "Well, she's actually showing a really good interest in numbers." And he said, "Well, that's good because I love maths, and all we do is maths." And so I moved out to a country school again, another challenge that again I was meeting kids that I didn't know. I knew one girl, and they'd all grown up with each other, and here's the townie coming out to the
Mm.
country, and I was known as the townie, and so I got put back a year. So we did Form 1, Form 2 back then. So, I did
Mm.
Form 1 twice. Yeah. So I
Right.
did,
That's the year seven
yeah,
in
that's
our, yeah.
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, so that was where I really kind of got my numbers from. Um,
Mm.
that particular teacher just loved numbers, and we had a basic facts test every morning.
Yeah.
And I just set myself a challenge that I was going to be really good as, such and such in the class. Or, and so I did. And I just got better and faster. And he'd have a stopwatch. And we had to try and get it. And we'd, yep, would yell out. Some people would do it like in, 49 seconds or would and yeah, so I just got better and better at the maths, and it kind of became like a little competition, really.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, the finding the strength, in the numbers. Yeah, I love
Mm,
it. I love it.
mm.
So you mentioned that so Tax Agent 99 is 11 years old now. And then you mentioned that you spent a few years doing your OE. So when was it that you first decided that, oh, I think I might get into accounting and this could
Yes.
be possibly a career?
Didn't even know that it was going to be a career. So yeah, it's so when I left school, I got. Oh, I'll tell you this little story, okay? Because it's a bit of the crunch of really. So I used to work at a dairy called Dot's Dairy. So it was like a cafe, but it had a dairy, and I told the lady, the owner there, that I was going to apply for a job at Pat Prescott's, and there's an accounting position. But I didn't end up applying for the job at Pat Prescott's because it said you should have done accounting at school. Well, I didn't do
Mm.
accounting
Mhm.
in college, so I didn't apply. Anyway, the lady, the office manager, rang the owner of the dairy for a reference, and she was actually ringing about somebody else. And the lady at the dairy says, "Oh, you're ringing about Janine. Oh my God, she's fantastic. She's this, she's that. She's amazing. Oh, you'll just love her, Sue. She'll be so good. Oh, she's da 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 da, righty, righty, rah." Sue got off the phone and she was just like, Sue knew me as a young girl, a small town, and she was just like, "We need Janine. Like, how do we get Janine?" So I was actually asked to apply for this position, based on a reference from working at the dairy for so long, and like helping run the dairy while they went away on their summer holiday over here to the mountain. Yeah, so I applied for the job, and look, this is where I also too have been very honest about my learning disability or my
Mm.
dyslexia or living with dyslexia. Is I went to the interview and I openly told them that I, have dyslexia, and yeah, so they had a meeting with my mum, and again we discussed how I was going to be able to still fulfill the job, and but deal with the dyslexia and how they can support me in the job, in the role, with my dyslexia. So yeah, so my mum and my dad, so my mum and dad were separated, but they came and had a meeting with the owner of Pat Prescott's, Paul Prescott. And yeah, they sat down and said, "Okay, well, we really want to give Janine this opportunity. We've met with her. She's got a really good reference from Kim. We know that there's dyslexia. How can we work with Janine in order for her to be able to get this as her first job, which was an office junior position?" So a lot of maths, a lot of adding up, the old calculator, adding up all the ledgers and everything like that. They had a BP and a Caltex service station. So I did all the tills, balanced everything, took everything to the bank. Yeah, so it was really awesome. We worked in with each other of how we can all work together, and how they can support me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because again, it comes down to like dyslexia has got nothing to do with intelligence and it's got nothing to do with problem solving skills.
yes,
Yeah, gosh, your mother sounds actually amazing. Like very, very
yes,
progressive in her approach and her thinking and her
yes,
support with you. It's
yeah,
it's actually
totally.
It's beautiful to listen to. It really is.
Yeah, she's been my biggest supporter. So,
Mm.
very, very, very lucky. And yeah, so I worked there for 2.5 years, and learned so much within that. Then I went over to the UK. And then when I came back from the UK, I worked, I got another office position.
Mm.
So I worked there for 6.5 years in this office position, and I worked alongside their accountant. And at the time, we were crunching numbers of, we made a massive big spreadsheet with each other, and we were crunching all these numbers. Like, this is geek stuff, but this is what I love. Like, how much are they making per item? How much are they making
Mm.
per garment of clothes? And where are they losing money? And where can they do it better? And rah rah. So the accountant and I would sit down and we would crunch all these numbers for hours on end. And I'd stay behind because it was so exciting. And then he actually had a position where the lady that had worked for him was going on maternity leave, and he was doing a pivot within his business. So he was doing some accounting work, but he was doing a lot of property management side of things. And so he was not doing the property management as much, and he was pivoting into accounting. So he asked me if I would go and work from him. Obviously, a very tricky situation because he's the accountant of where I'm currently working. Anyway, we managed to transition through that. So when I first started in his CA's office, which was based in his home, there was very little accounting clients. He probably only had about 10 clients because he was transitioning. So I was just really eager and
Mm.
really interested to know, like, okay, so I mean, I'd done DST returns and I'd done reconciliation, but I'm now doing it for, 5 different entities and then da 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 da. So everyone was different. So
Mm.
he also was dyslexic as well. So,
There we go. There we go. There, I actually, interestingly, and then I hope you don't mind me saying that, but offline you said to me, you told me that your husband's actually dyslexic.
yes,
But
yes,
I had a conversation on an earlier podcast with Dr. Eunice Fuchs, and she said that she believes that neurodiverse people are just drawn towards each other.
yes.
And it's
I
like,
get it. I
yeah,
get
and they
it.
create their own little, I don't know, like little silos of
Yes,
neurodiversity. And yeah, so there we go. You trained under, he was a chartered accountant. So you
yes,
trained under a
yes.
chartered accountant. He's dyslexic, you're dyslexic. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we just got each other, really,
Yeah, and he probably
Yeah.
understood some of your challenges because I was gonna ask you a question about where did you find, like, obviously training to be a chartered accountant yourself. You
I'm actually not a chartered
Oh, you're
accountant.
not a chartered accountant,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
you would have had to have did some kind of financial training.
So because I trained under the chartered accountant, so in New Zealand, you don't actually have to have, this sounds really bad, but anyway, you don't actually have to have any qualifications to be an accountant.
Oh wow. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so I'm not a chartered accountant,
Right.
which yes, you do have to have qualifications to be a chartered accountant.
Hmm.
So within Tax Agent 99, I have a chartered accountant, and he works for me, but myself, I'm not a chartered accountant. Yeah, so you can be a bookkeeper
Yep.
or an accountant or within financial management and stuff like that, that you don't actually have to have any formal qualifications. So
Yeah,
I've
got
never been
it.
to Polytech. Yeah, okay, I don't even have School C maths
Yeah, yeah.
because I struggled with the actual
Because it's the
the
language
text.
side of it. Yes,
Yeah.
and this is something that I do talk a lot about with parents when we find out that math actually ends up being quite tricky because as we move through the stages and the years of mathematics, it becomes much more literacy based.
Yes, it does. It
Yeah.
does. So I couldn't read the questions. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I worked for him for 6.5 years. And by the time I had left,
Hmm.
I had helped build the practice up that we couldn't take on any more clients.
Wow.
So I think at that stage, I'm going to say we probably had like about 300 clients,
Hmm.
350 odd clients. And I'd put all the systems, procedures, policies, documents, all these things that you need in place for clients to provide all their bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Um, I had two staff members underneath me that I was actually reviewing their work
Mhm.
and teaching them. I was taking all the financials and tax returns to full draft stage doing. So I became the practice manager and I was managing the staff and I was managing him. And I was also this was before Zero. So Zero was very, very early stages, just as I was about to start. Just as just as I started my business, obviously Zero was very early in the piece. Um,
Mhm.
which is an online counting software. Lots of people know that, but just to be clear. Um, so we use an old system called BankLink, but I trained my clients how to use BankLink, and my boss thought I was crazy. He's like, you're putting money out the door, Janine." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm teaching them how to be empowered within their business so they know what's going on.
Hey, there we
I'm
go.
saving myself time by
Mhm.
them bringing all of their receipts and all of their bank statements and everything all collated and organized. And then we can then do more clients. So if
Mm.
I teach them to do GST and I'm only doing this part, not this part, we can smash out more GST returns and we can do more end of year accounts. So therefore we can have more clients.
Yeah, so putting your problem solving and your thinking outside of the box skills into practice.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, so yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So my next question is, how do you see dyslexia today within your identity? Because, you touched a little bit on school, and there were some quite traumatic moments within school. But how do you see yourself today? Because you've actually done such a lot. You've done such a lot with your life.
Yes. I I don't, even though yes I do live every day with dyslexia, I often refer to myself to say I was dyslexic.
Oh, that is interesting. Okay.
Because if you put it in a past tense, then yes, it's there, but it's not, like, so instead of like living with a burden, oh, I'm dyslexic and it's
Mm,
really hard for me, or I was dyslexic, or I have learned to live with my dyslexia. I have learned
mm.
to, do workarounds and yeah, so I think it's a really big part of your mindset as well. Huge part of your mindset. Because if you just carry on feeling a little bit sorry for yourself for, being in the dyslexic, like, and I say that because I've been that person, and really there's so much out there that can support us. And yeah, I think it's really about if you identify as a person living, functioning, and doing fantastic with dyslexia, you can really step into a very different way of, or a very different entity, or, identity, person, the way that you think about it, because
Mm,
mindset is so big, isn't it? Like if
mm,
we carry on being in that state of, you know, depression or
mm,
despair over and let dyslexia define who you are, then you're not going to get anywhere. But if you're
mm,
living with it, dealing with it, and you're just working around how to do life with it,
mm.
yeah, you'll get a lot further in life.
And also focusing on your strengths, I think
Totally
too.
focusing on your strengths.
Yeah. I mean, I know that it's tough to figure out what your strengths are, but it's also just embracing the things that you're good at that you're good at.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
And you might not know those when you're quite young, or you might, but that's where mums and dads
Mhm.
and teachers and asking those questions, like even a teacher, like, hey, where do you see that I'm what I'm really good at, or what area do you see I'm really good at in school, or because somebody else might sort of, I probably would never have thought that maths. I would never have thought I'm going to be in an accounting industry. I never thought that I'd own my own accounting, but I just, everywhere I went, I just tapped and tapped and tapped a little bit more into, you know, what, you know, what I wouldn't know that I was good at it, but what excites me and where my passion is and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I
Because my
think also,
personality is definitely not an accountant.
what would you describe yourself more as?
Some people go say, you just just don't even, I don't know. Sometimes I think accountants is like, boring and
Oh
blah,
yeah, the suit and the tie and
you
yes.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. Yep.
stay, yeah, just I don't know. Whereas, I'm quite vibrant and
Yes.
but that yeah, so again, putting yourself into a box because I'm very different as well within my accounting, even within my business and stuff like that. Like I really love to get to know the people and I love to understand what's going on outside of their business, to talk about their finances, and I talk
Mm.
about the finances, like your financial statements. It's like a book. It's
Mhm.
like a story of what's happened within the last financial year, and your finances can actually tell a really big story. And so I always sort of often say to people, let's rewrite a new story. How can we do
Mhm.
better
Mhm.
this year? And I can look very differently at finances. I can find a problem very quickly within a business. I can find a problem very quickly within the books. I can just, like I can just see through. Oh, we need to do this, and sort this out.
Yep,
Oh,
yep.
like I'm a very quick thinker in the money side of things. Like
Mm.
it's, I'm
Mm.
not, I'm not. This is, I'm not like the best at going. Um, this times this plus this is brr. Like I'm just the way I think with numbers is very, I don't know how to describe it, but I can
Yeah.
see problems, I know how to find the
Mm.
solution, and I know what results they need to do. So again, it's that logical,
Yes.
critical thinking,
Yes.
outside of the box thinking.
Outside of the box. Yeah. My next question was, do you have any strategies or tools that you use to work around? Like, what have you developed over the years? Because obviously dyslexia is still there, and you have
Yes,
that difficulty with language.
yes.
So yeah, what workarounds have you managed to discover?
Yeah, well, look, I think in this day and age, we all love a good old chat GPT and
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
um,
Yep.
and so you do start to um find those workarounds. even zero's been amazing because obviously as long as you're putting in good data,
Hmm.
um, it will help you produce really good results, like within your financials and you setting everything
Mm.
all up. But so in my world, yes, it's zero and using really good software. It's definitely as well as embracing technology, embracing AI,
Mm.
all of those sorts of things, your speech to text. I have things all on my computer that quite often, like when I'm doing a meeting, it'll take all my notes for me. Those sorts of things. I have, things that can go back and read out what I've said. It can check my grammar and spelling and all of that sort of stuff. So really embracing those technologies
Yeah.
that are around us. So
Mm.
therefore, you're not sending out stuff that's riddled with spelling mistakes, and yeah,
Yeah.
you still
Yeah.
you've still got that level of professional.
Yeah, and so important. Like within school, we call those accommodations,
Yes,
and really because like again, we'll talk about the intelligence. The intelligence is still there. Your grammar is there, but
yes,
we want that reflected, and so you use the accommodation and the technology and the tools that are given to you,
yes,
in order to get that out because that's still you. That's still
yeah,
you
totally.
doing the work and presenting the work.
So
Yeah.
even like so with my staff, I can often they'll say, "Oh, can you help me write the letter?" And so I go, "Okay, cool, right, what do we need to do? Okay, you need to say da 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 da." And so I can very clearly and easily see what needs to be done and I can voice it,
Mm.
but it's that whole seeing it, voicing it. And it was actually interesting because I did listen to one of your 31 days of dyslexia,
Mm.
and you were talking about that overwhelm and
Oh, the anxiety
anxiety.
and the stress. Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, like that is something that's still every day I do have to
Mm.
live with.
Mm.
It's that anxiety and that overwhelm of sometimes I do every day something might come up and I might just go, I actually I know what I need to do, but oh my God, that's so much reading, or
Yeah.
oh, how am I going to comprehend all of
Yeah.
that? Or and you do go into a lot of anxiety over, oh, I can't do that. How am I do that? And so that's where you're again going back to, yeah, okay, right, I can do this.
Yeah.
Let's just break it down. So yeah, breaking things
Yeah.
down, and so
into
there's a
into the smaller chunks. And what I liked about doing that little bit of research into stress and anxiety, because my son he suffered a lot of stress and anxiety, and of course we didn't really know what was going on. Um, but it's also name that emotion, and that's what I loved
yes,
about that. And that's obviously what you've ended up teaching yourself, because our brains go into that fight or flight mode, and they
yeah.
think they're in danger, but we're not facing a lion, or there's
No,
nothing in front of us that's actually going to harm us physically. And so it's learning how to deal with naming the emotion. Like you say, break it down. It's all right. Yes, this is a lot of reading, but hey, I'm going to start with this top bit. And once I get
yes,
through that, I can get my next little bit. It's yeah, there was another analogy where it's you've got a giant rock in front of you, but if you actually broke it up into the tiny little balls, then you can actually juggle them and it's okay. So
yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Exactly. Don't look at it like the big boulder in front of you.
Mm,
Can
mm,
you take the pickaxe and go up it, or is it better to
mm.
go around it, or do you need to abseil up it, or like how are you going to
Yeah.
get up over that mountain? And sometimes that's the way you've got to look at things, like
Yeah.
especially if there's a lot of reading on the page, or there's a lot of oh my God, like, and then a bit of pressure to get that
Mm.
sorted or get that finished, or, I often always say in my business, I'm the bottleneck because sometimes I'm a bit like, I just don't know how to deal with that. So I might just put it to the one
Mm.
side. But also too, using your voice and saying,
Yes.
look, I know how to deal with it. I just don't know how to deal with that. But could you sit down and help me, And yeah, to ask for somebody help has been something that's been quite hard for me because I've obviously asked for help in the past and I've
Mm.
been told, go away and work it out or this or that. So learning, especially within the working environment for kids that are going to enter into the working environment or within everyday life, working out and just asking for help, but just say, look, I know that I can do such and such part, or but I really need help with this. Can you help me out?
That
And
self-advocacy, it's a pivotal thing, but
mm,
but you're making yourself so vulnerable.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And you do have to make yourself vulnerable.
Mm.
When you learn, when you live with dyslexia, you do have to make yourself quite vulnerable.
Mm.
But it's been comfortable to sit in that vulnerability.
Oh, I love that.
You know,
You actually have to get comfortable to
you
sit
have to get
within.
comfortable. Yeah,
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
were made to feel uncomfortable in our vulnerability at school.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm not knocking the school system, but like, yeah, you were made to feel uncomfortable in your most vulnerable time, and you
Mm.
were young and you didn't know, my young child, little Janine, didn't know what was going on, and she was
Mm.
being vulnerable and asking a school teacher for help. And now, talking back to that little Janine, I can just say, well, now we can be vulnerable because we've got tools and we've got people around us that will support us, and we're going to
Mm.
get through, and we've got through. So
Mm.
yeah, so it's being able to sit in that vulnerability. Yeah.
And if it's okay with you, and you can let me know if you don't want to answer, but you did mention that you have your son. Um, and we did talk a little bit offline about this, but I just thought, would you like to share a little bit about how you can take that knowledge, like you've taken that knowledge of what you learned with your dyslexia, how is that coming through with your son? Can you?
Sure. Yeah. So 4 years ago, we chose to homeschool our son,
Mm,
who has been diagnosed with very severe dyslexia. And I suppose because my mum's been such a great supporter of me, for me, I want to be that for my son as well.
mm,
So I picked up that he had dyslexia, and I went to the school, and yeah, so I pushed for him to have tests and go into, reading recovery. And well, I didn't have to push. So I made them more aware, and they were very good. They asked me for signs of what to look out for. And yeah,
mm,
so we worked with the school, and we also too worked with the learning over in Greaton.
mhm,
It's an organisation that goes through different movements and things like that to help get your brain connecting. And
mhm,
um, and he's got an auditory processing disorder as well, which you would be aware of, Heather. And yeah, so we decided that, yeah, okay, let's give homeschooling a go. And
mm,
he was right at that moment that he was enjoying going to school, and he was, but he was coming off the bus and it was like a lemonade bottle. and he would get off the bus and you could just tell that he was trying to hold it in all day
Yep.
with all of these emotions and all of
Hmm.
these things that were going on, that he didn't know how to deal with it. And so yeah, so we started homeschooling him, and yeah, so I'm also a school teacher as well as a mum, and own an accounting business.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we do um look, there's a lot of we do a lot of what's called unschooling,
Hmm.
and we do also schooling. So but I can sit in those moments where he feels very uncomfortable,
Hmm.
and we can either pivot and go, okay, look, it's just not working, or let's learn when you're at your best.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and look, he's done amazing. He's done amazing things. Him and his little mate, they started a lawn mowing business in Papamoa not that long ago, and they landed themselves in a podcast and did a podcast, and they go out fishing. The other morning, I was up at 5 o'clock with them, and they were out on the in the harbour there, and they've got a little tinny, and they go out fishing, and they love being boys,
Yeah.
and yes, they do some learning, but their learning really comes from life skills,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
he's got chickens, he's got sheep, he's splitting firewood at the moment, and yeah, so yeah, that's a little bit more about my son, and just allowing him to be really the best version of himself as well. And he's doing really good. He is now reading and writing, and it'll just more and more come with him.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
will he
And
ever sit school C? Will he ever be brilliant? All that? No,
yeah,
probably not.
he'll be
But
brilliant.
don't
He'll
worry
be
about
brilliant.
him. He'll be brilliant.
He'll still be brilliant. He'll still be brilliant. What,
Exactly.
here's an interesting question. What are you most proud of in terms of who you've become over these past years?
Yeah, it's not one that's something you always want to sort of toot your own trumpet at, is it? You don't often sort of kind of sit there and go, what are you most proud of? I am extremely proud that I have, um, fought my fears, I suppose,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and not lived in those stories that I was told as a child. And I have challenged myself in so many ways. And I am very proud of who I am and who I've become and what I've achieved. To own your own business, for anybody, it is hard.
Mm,
It
mm.
can be harder as a person living with dyslexia. To have staff under me, to have amazing clients to get to work with, and be a part of their lives and their stories, and their businesses is awesome. Um, yeah, and just not, I suppose, yeah, not living into, I don't really know how to just describe it, but not living into those fears, and
Yeah.
really facing your fears, and the more I faced my fears, the more I could do it, and the more I got, better at, the more I challenged myself, and learnt new skills. I'm still always learning,
Me
and
too. Me
yeah,
too.
you've got to, you've
Yeah.
got to, yeah,
Lifelong learners, lifelong learners. That's what I
yeah.
see anyway. Yeah.
But
And
learning in the way that I can learn.
yes.
So not in the way that like you're meant to learn, learning now in the way that I I can learn
Mm.
is also too something as well. Yeah.
And what's your vision for the next 5 to 10 years? Like with your business and personally. I mean, you don't have to delve too much into the personally, but but yeah, where do you see sort of 5 to 10 years for you?
So something that I've been working on and I sort of keep putting off is I love to train small business owners and people that are
Mm.
new to business. And I have a lot of information and, in my head, I suppose.
Yep.
And I really want to create small courses for small business owners to be able to teach them and empower them to do, best bookkeeping. And because I think that there's a missing market, or is it, I don't even know if it's a market. I just
A
uh,
gap? It's like
a
a gap?
gap, because I don't even see that it's something that I'm gonna make trillions of dollars off it. I don't even know if I'm gonna do it to make money. I want to share my knowledge, and I want to empower small business owners, and I want to be able to give back. So I don't know what all that looks like yet. And I have the courses sort of kind of mapped out, but that's something that I really want to kind of leave my legacy, I suppose, is
Mm.
to do some training and to teach it in a way that's very easily to be received. So yeah, if my legacy can be to give back to small business owners, to teach them and how to be really good business owners within their bookkeeping side of things, and empower them in that way,
I
that's my
yeah.
legacy.
I had a little thought too because I was thinking, there's if 20% of the population it has some kind of neurodiversity, dyslexia it goes hand in hand with 60% we know roughly have ADHD. But I mean, you can
Yes,
have ADHD and not dyslexia, but dyslexia and dyscalculia, like 20% of our population has got some kind of neurodiversity going on.
yes,
And I also know that like one of the things with ADHD is that um, you're almost there with lots and lots of things, but that state of overwhelm kind of gets you and stops you from being the very best that you can be as well. And
yes,
it would be really cool to be able to work with those neurodiverse business owners to help them achieve the best, do the things to the best of their ability. It would be
yes.
really cool.
And we were talking before about how like we do have our own like little group, or I don't know, what did you call
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Like
the silo,
little
the
silo.
neurodiverse silo.
Yeah, like it is interesting because I do have quite a number of clients,
Yes.
and the moment that I say to them, well, I'm dyslexic.
I was going to ask if you have a
Yeah.
yes.
And they're like, oh my God, that just makes it
Yeah.
so much better. And I'm just like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's all right.
Mm.
We've got this. It's okay. And so I suppose as well is that's something else that I've learned is don't hide it. Like,
Yeah.
like you can, because I suppose some people will go, so you're dyslexic and you're in your own accounting firm. Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
What do you mean? How does it
Yeah, what do
work?
you mean?
What
Yeah.
do you mean? I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
Well, I'm doing it.
Yeah. 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 It
It's like
means that
it's like, oh, you've got dyslexia. You're not going to be anybody. How can you have an accounting firm? Well,
yeah. And that's why we still need to bust these myths. And quite honestly, like that's my whole point behind Dyslexia Awareness Month is that we need to not look at dyslexia as something that's going to hold us back.
yes,
I say us, but
totally.
hold
Yeah,
hold somebody back. We need to look at it and just go, like you say, okay, I've got dyslexia. I am dyslexic, whichever way you want to look at yourself, but I'm an accountant, I'm a mother, I'm doing homeschooling.
Yes.
Um, yeah, that's it. It's part of you, but it doesn't define how far you can push yourself in life.
Totally, exactly.
Yeah,
Some people have even put it like a, you know, a, well, how can you teach your son if you're dyslexic?
yeah, yeah,
Well, actually, we're learning together
yeah,
because, there's
yeah,
there's great little things like of Heather's yeet cards, and and even I've learned,
yeah,
even I have to stop and think
yeah,
about like,
yeah,
and so we're
yeah,
actually learning together.
yeah.
Okay, you know,
And
do I
that's
know
the
any
one.
of the
Yes.
sounds like on
Yeah.
your back wall? No, but
Mm.
I do now.
Yes. Yeah, there we go. There we go. If you could send a message to your younger self, what would you say?
Oh, I've sent lots of messages to little Janine,
Oh.
and I've told her it is all right. We made it in life. We didn't just
Mm.
make it in life. We are brilliant in life.
You're thriving.
Yeah, we're thriving, and we did it. So yeah, so little Janine's actually kind of been healed a lot, because you've got to go back and do inner child work, and I've done lots of inner child work and past life bits and
Mm.
pieces also too to get to where I am now. So
Mm.
yeah, that little Janine back in the primers or the early days. Yeah, we've healed those wounds on sitting in those classroom traumas, and
Mm.
she now knows that, yeah, we've made it,
Mm.
and we've done very, very well in life. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's the thriving, not surviving.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
the we're not
exactly.
just doing our thing, we're thriving, which is yeah, which is really, really lovely. And I had another question on the tip of my head, and it was gonna on the tip of my tongue to say, and it's completely disappeared,
Oh, I hate that.
which has annoyed me. But yeah, would I? It was sort of around okay, if that was the message that you had for your younger self. What about other parents out there and other kids that are navigating their way through dyslexia? If actually, let's break that down into a couple. What would your advice be to parents out there? Perhaps they're new to the journey of dyslexia.
Mm.
What would you like to say to parents?
Yeah, it's a bit of a hard question. I suppose, yeah, I suppose their question is always about like sort of, but like what's wrong with my kid,
Mm,
or depending on their question is, why is my kid not the same as little Johnny, or
mm,
well, so if we sort of frame it around like those sorts of things, is just allowing allowing your child to be the best version of themselves, and allowing them to be a little bit child-led in terms of learning. So even with my son, is that some days I sit down and I go, okay, so we're going to learn the times tables, and then next minute he's getting a ruler out, and then next minute, oh, we're actually measuring the length of the caravan, and we do, like, so I suppose as well as that, just letting your child
build on their
either
strengths.
build their strengths, build
Yeah.
their own strengths, and let them be quite unique, because we
Mm,
are a unique bunch. I suppose I'm a bit different because I've lived with dyslexia, and
mm,
obviously my husband's lived with dyslexia,
mm.
but I can imagine it would be very different or hard for a parent that isn't dyslexic.
Which is me, and I always felt like such a failure as a
Yeah,
parent.
yeah, you're gonna feel like a
I
failure.
felt like a
And
failure.
even I feel like a failure. Some
Mm.
days I'm just like, oh my God, I'm failing in every way. Yesterday I was a big failure, and then I worked out that it was actually a strike day. So
Oh,
that
yeah,
was okay that I left my son asleep in bed because we just couldn't do life yesterday.
yeah, yeah,
So there's going to be good days and bad days,
yeah.
and the more you push your child into doing something that's really, really hard for them, that you don't see that's hard. That is so hard for them to get that, or to tell them that
Mm,
I can't read that, or I don't get that, or because you don't understand. They
mm,
are not making up excuses. It's very hard for them. And if also too as well, if you're I never pushed my son to do any homework after school. Now, I'm not saying, but when you come home from school and you're a dyslexic learner, all day from 9 till 3, you've been in fight and flight mode of trying to just frickin' survive to get to that bell, and you
mm,
are exhausted. There
mm,
is no way you want to come home and do any more learning. So,
mm,
it might be that if you want to, do a bit of one-on-one in the quiet of the weekend,
mm,
pick it up and pick up the book and do it early on a Saturday morning with no
mm,
distractions. And, don't, if you're going to sit and force your child to read a storybook, it's never going to happen
mm,
because that's not magically
mm,
going to just turn on that they can read that book.
mm, yeah.
Fatigue within dyslexic
Mm,
is huge.
mm, mm,
I know with myself is that I have to get a really good night's sleep,
mm.
because if I don't get a good night's sleep,
Yes, yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
can't function. I mean, some of us can't function, but
Mm,
when you're a dyslexic learner or a dyslexic, liver or whatever, your brain is just working so
mm,
much harder than
mm.
I don't know what an average person's like because I'm not average,
Yeah,
but
I know. It's like the difference. So how do we
yeah.
know? But yes, it's the mental fatigue. It's the mental
It's
fatigue.
mental
Yeah.
fatigue is
Mm,
huge, and
yeah.
I know I've had mental fatigue, and
Mm,
it's just when you hit that wall, you've hit the wall.
mm,
You've got
yeah.
nothing left to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's something that you'd like to pass on to young people out there who've been diagnosed with dyslexia and and would like a little bit of advice? What would you like to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. I do I do often, to some of even Chase's friends and that sort of stuff, that you know that they are dyslexic or they've got learning, and when I share my story, they get that, wow, like, really? So don't let your limiting beliefs define who you are, really.
Mm,
um Go out there, find your brilliance, find what lights you up in this world, and just go out there and be the best version of yourself.
mm,
Money will come to you, whatever way that is, that you are here on this earth to make your money.
mm,
And live into that dream and just be creative as well with whatever it is that you want to go and do. Um, if it is that you want to go off to university or polytech, all that sort of stuff, yes, but often when we're dyslexic, we are more hands-on learners. We more go out there and get apprenticeships, or we learn from other
mm,
people.
mm,
So don't compare yourself to other people. um, we are very different to everybody else. We are very, very intelligent. We
mm,
just struggle to get that stuff on paper and that paper into our brain. But
yeah.
don't let that define who you are.
Mm,
You can go out and find your own way of learning. So if that is through an apprenticeship or with somebody else, if you can find that somebody else that is prepared to give you that time and that, foot up in life, go out
mm.
there and find that person, and you'll be amazing.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That is, yeah, that's awesome. And I've just got a couple more things that we'll cover off. My first one is, where can people find you? Like social media, yeah,
Yes.
plug, all that sort of thing. Where can people find you?
Cool. Well, so our office is on McDonald Street in the Mount.
Hmm.
We do have a website, taxagent99.co.nz. We
Cool.
have Facebook, but who really wants to follow an accountant on Facebook? So there's not really much on Facebook. But if anyone wants to reach out to me personally, I have a Facebook, Janine Gartner. More than welcome to send me message on Facebook, or flick me an email. More than happy to discuss with any parent or I mean, even if there's kids out there that are wanting to get into the accounting industry or the bookkeeping industry that
That's
are struggling with
awesome.
dyslexia, reach
Yep.
out and yeah, been there, done that, got the war wounds, got the
Yeah,
awards as
yeah,
well. I've
yeah,
won awards
yeah.
within the bookkeeping industry, and yeah, so yeah, that's and also too, if you're local, well, you've probably seen my car around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, oh, that's awesome. And we'll link all of that. I love saying that. That is one of the things I don't think I'll ever get bored with saying on a podcast is we'll link that in the show notes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. And just before we wrap up, I'll just give you the opportunity. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you feel is really important that you'd like to get out there to everybody, anybody listening?
I'm just going to have a quick look at your little notes because there was something that did.
You can take your time because I can
Yeah,
put a little thingy in this one. So take your time.
yes, something that's so I'm going to speak into I suppose entering the workforce.
That,
So
yep,
when
I
you
love it. Yep.
when you're, a person with dyslexia and you are entering into the workforce, that is a very scary time because you're going out of school and you're going into the workforce. I really feel that for myself, I always I always openly discussed it within interviews. I always openly said, I am I'm not good at this, but I'm really fantastic on that. So, I think being very open and honest that you are a person that, lives with dyslexia, and you are honest with them around your struggles, but also to be very, don't let that like stomp you down because you don't get the job because of that, because you are brilliant. You're going to be brilliant in so many other ways. So, but if communicating via text message, or if the communication side of things within the position that you are going for, bring that to the employer's attention and ask them, how, as a dyslexic person, can we work around that? How can we work together? Because I am really good at such and such. But in terms of the paperwork side of things, um, and maybe you could go with a tool or a solution of how you can work with that. And just, I think, being very open, and otherwise it could end up being, a problem. If, you don't want it to be a problem and go, well, I didn't know that.
Mm,
Being open and honest, it's all part of sitting in that vulnerability again, isn't it?
yeah.
So we have to sit in our vulnerability, but we have to own that we have this disorder. It is something, I did remember in one of the podcasts I listened to, that it's not going to be a pill. You're not going to take go to the doctor and get a a diagnosis and then a pill
Yeah.
and it's going to go away. This is something that we're going to be living with for the rest of our lives. And so it's the way that we deal with it, it's the way that we embrace it, and it's the way that we communicate in it through our lives is the way that we will get through life. So
Mm.
I suppose that that's just sort of something that I know that yeah, I have always been very open and honest about it. I think that there was only ever one job that I didn't get, um, but I didn't really want the job anyway. So 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 I was open about it, and they were like, "Oh well, yeah." I mean, they yeah, but also too is I don't think I didn't really want that job anyway. So every other job I've been very open and honest about it, and it's never something that sort of actually got in the way for me. Yeah.
I can't wait for my son to listen to that, quite honestly. And yes, it's interesting because when he worked at McDonald's a long time ago. Um, he had to do a whole lot of human resources stuff, as you do. There's lots of tick boxes and little courses that you need to do.
Yes.
And there was a manager that he didn't get on with. And then he finally said, "Hey, these things take me a long time to do, and I can only do it in sort of batches of 40 minutes because it's so challenging for me and it's so tiring. I'm dyslexic." And it turns out that the manager was dyslexic as well. And so through his vulnerability, he found someone who could advocate for him within the workplace. So,
Wow.
and they became good friends, and she could help him. She could read some of the questions when he couldn't quite get the meaning from the questions and what he needed to do. She could
Yes.
reframe it and reread it in a different way. And through him being vulnerable, the connection was there, and she could then help him.
That's so
Um,
good.
and he was actually quite young at the time, like he was only 16. So, and he had already found school very difficult.
Yes.
And and these kids are in the most vulnerable place anyway because they're different, and everybody thinks you think everybody's looking at you. It's
Yeah.
that's how kids feel. So yeah. So thank you for that advice for all the young people out there, is to put yourself in that vulnerable position, but it's okay to ask for help.
Yes,
Mm,
exactly. Because if your son didn't ask for help and didn't sit in his vulnerable side,
mm,
he well we talked about the mental fatigue,
mm.
and would he have got that results? No, he wouldn't. He
No.
wouldn't. And would he found that friendship? No,
Yeah. And then
probably
someone
not.
that's in his court and able to see
Totally.
him for who he is, because you're so much more than a misspelled word. And
Totally,
yeah.
exactly. I mean, if you have, sometimes if you have something wrong with you, you have a medic alert bracelet. We
Mm,
talked about this offline. We're not wearing anything
mm,
that is different. That's
mm,
different. So here we are talking online. You know, you don't have dyslexia, but your son
mm.
has dyslexia. There's nothing that defines us in our
Yeah,
look.
yeah, visibly.
Use
Yeah,
our
visibly.
voice.
Yes,
We have
yes.
to use our voice to say,
Mm,
"Hey, look, yeah, I can do this, but I'll be able. I need longer because I need to break it down
mm,
into 30 or 40-minute chunk sizes,
mm,
and
mm,
yeah, and look, it's um like my son, he and his friend, a little homeschool mate, not last summer but the summer before, they actually did their dive course through the dive
mm,
zone.
Mm.
And Dive Zone said, oh, yeah, it's about a 10 to 12 hour course online after we've paid the money.
Mm.
Oh, no. Really? Okay. Right. But I tell you what, these boys, um, Chase with hours, I think we worked 35 or 40 hours on
Mm.
the theory side of things.
Mm.
He knew exactly, but just by me reading it and him
Yep.
watching videos,
Mm.
he actually got 98% in his test.
Wow.
So, and the unfortunate thing for Chase was his ears let him down, so
Oh.
he couldn't equalize them and go down.
Oh.
So it was actually very interesting because it wasn't actually the theory that let him down, being a
It was
dyslexic.
something physical.
It was something physical.
Oh
So
my
we
gosh.
actually had a lot of different emotions because we actually got through the theory.
See, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, no, look, Janine, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. And yeah, this has been a really, really lovely conversation. And
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure that
Thank you for
no, totally
yeah.
welcome. This is why I love doing this because I can provide a platform for different voices. And
Yes,
I always think if I just reach one person, um, and they get one thing, that one person gets one thing, then
yes.
I've done my job because if I can help one person gain a greater understanding, um, then yeah, I just think that's a really beautiful thing, and I love it. And you know, again, you've put yourself in a vulnerable place by sharing your story. And yeah, just thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you. I agree. It's like the ripple effect, isn't it? Is that, you
Yes.
know, if it can ripple out and if it goes to one person, that might go to one person. And it's not about this going to thousands of people. This will land with the person that needs to receive it in that moment.
Absolutely. All right. So, ngā mihi for joining us today on Love Literacy Inspired. And if this conversation lit a spark, please share it with someone who would love it too. You can follow me on YouTube and Spotify, and you can find out more on my website, which is loveliteracy.com. Until next time, keep sharing stories, keep asking questions, and keep loving literacy. Thank you so much for your time today.
Awesome.
Thank you.